Author Tom Grace is with us to talk about his international thriller, The Secret Cardinal, an adventure that races from the Vatican to the steppes of China. Tom, what is The Secret Cardinal about?
In 2 words, it's a jailbreak thriller. The situation I've wrapped this story around is the actual real conflict between China and the Vatican, which has been raging since the Chinese communists took over in 1949. Religion is basically heavily controlled in that country, and Roman Catholicism is illegal, and all the bishops over there are in jail. What I've set up in the premise of my book is I have an aging pope who's spent years negotiating with the Chinese to try and get his people out. And following an atrocity that surrounds one of these bishops, he's had enough, basically, and he brings in Nolan Kilkenny to figure out a way to break this man out of jail.
What is a secret cardinal?
Cardinals are advisors to the Pope, and they are the group that gets together and elects the new Pope. A secret cardinal is one in which only the Pope himself knows who the cardinal is. And then the Pope will do this in situations where the countries that this bishop resides in are hostile toward Roman Catholic Church. And the great possibility of naming this person a cardinal will cause this person to be killed. That's what inspired the book, was the relationship between Pope John Paul and the man who would become Cardinal Kung, who was one of his secret cardinals. Cardinal Kung had been imprisoned for 30 years by the Chinese and was the first secret cardinal named by Pope John Paul in '79. His secret was actually revealed when the Chinese released him finally. He was very close to death, and they didn't want him to be martyred in Chinese soil, so they allowed him to travel to the United States where he had family. And once in the U.S. he recovered, and following his recovery the Pope brought him to Rome and told him the secret.
There's a good deal of high-tech gadgetry found in both this and your previous novel. How did your own background give you knowledge about this technology? I'm
an architect by trade and training, and over the last 20 years my specialty seems to have been in high-tech research facilities. So I've done everything from DNA facilities to energy facilities, and in creating spaces for these scientists to do new work, cutting-edge work, I have to learn a lot about what they're doing in order to design a place for them to do it, and that finds its way into my books. Some of the stuff is just too fascinating to pass up.
You include some vivid descriptions of hand-to-hand combat.
I have a modest martial arts background. I work it out with other martial artists that I know to make sure I'm getting right, and I work with physicians to make sure that I'm getting the damage correct in terms of what would happen if someone did break a rib in this point. What would they be able to do? How would it limit their motion?
Roxanne Tau is an interesting character with an important role.
Roxanne came into being in my 3rd novel, Twisted Web. She is a CIA spy whose cover was completely blown in China. The CIA realized back in the early 90s that they could not possibly keep track of all the changes that are going on in technology. It's just moving too fast. And the only way for the CIA to keep abreast of what was going on was to create someone like a Roxanne Tau who would go out there into the world and interface with these companies. Nolan runs one of these companies.
How does the Secret Cardinal tie into what's going on in the world today?
The conflict between China and the Vatican is a real-world issue. It is going on today. It actually got quite ugly in the past year with the naming of illicit bishops, the interference of religion. It's a human rights issue in terms of whether people are actually free to express religion. From the Chinese point of view, they see it as a threat to control. And this could become a very dangerous situation as China tries to open itself up economically. It can't restrain one aspect of their people's culture while opening up another.
Tom, thanks for being with us.
It was my pleasure.